Hi, today I'm going to help you through the creation of your book of shadows, and I even included a free workbook that you can download for free. I'm Ruby from Tarot with Ruby here on YouTube, and welcome back to the channel. I make videos on witchy things, mostly tarot chats and pick a card readings, but I definitely want to do more of these like one-on-one videos. And you can also always book a reading with me through the links in the description box below. Those will take you either to my Etsy shop or my coffee shop. I have shared 2 of my books of shadows here before on the channel, and this is the one that I am currently working in, and I recently showed this one. I got a lot of positive feedback on those videos, so I thought, you know what, I want to make another video where I really help you go through the process of setting up your own book of shadows. And this is basically the video that I would have wanted when I set up my first book of shadows. So let's go through the steps of setting up your own book of shadows, and don't forget to click the link in the description to download the free workbook on the book of shadows creation. So step 1, what is a book of shadows? I often see a book of shadows being confused with grimoire, and same, I was there too. But how I have understood these 2 terms is, and I do believe that they are relative and depend on what your craft looks like, but your book of shadows is like a bullet journal type of journal for your craft, for your practice. So you can use it as a journal, write down your experiences and any information that you find and the way you put all of that into your practice and more things like that. So in my book of shadows, I've written down information about the wheel of the year, Hellenistic deities, zodiac signs, planets, houses, crystals that I own. I have my crystal shelf here, crystals that I own and properties that they have, but also more personal things like a list of the tarot decks and oracle decks that I own, as well as a wish list. Rituals that I wanted to do for the Sabbats of Samhain and Yule, my interpretations of the new moons and the full moons, as well as how they impact my birth chart and my life, and then also some spell bowl ideas. And your grimoire would be more like a textbook of your craft. So where you've written down like perfected spells and other practices from your craft that are like tried and true. So for step 2, we're going to figure out what will you use your book of shadows for. So I believe that there are multiple uses for your book of shadows. Do you want it to be like a catch-all for everything in your craft? So including spells, astrology, tarot, and whatever else that you practice? Or do you want separate journals for those things? You don't have to plan out your book of shadows. It can just be like a working notebook where you write down whatever you want, whenever you want. But I also understand that if you're starting a new book of shadows, you probably want to have some sort of plan before you dive in. So just to share what I am doing for my book of shadows, I sort of have like all different kinds of things in my book of shadows. It is not my tarot journal, nor do I keep any tarot card meanings in mine, because I have a separate cheat sheet and a separate deck study journal for that. But I do write down the tarot spreads and readings that I did for my practice, like in specific for the Sabbath, so for Samhain, for Yule, for some new moons, some full moons. I write down the cards that I had drawn and my interpretation of those, as well as any information that I can use like crystals for healing, astrology, magical correspondences for the days of the week. I also write all of that in my book of shadows. In step 3, I think it is super important to talk about the information included in your book of shadows. So if you also want to list information that you found in your book of shadows, I do want to note the following. Make sure that you write down the sources of where you find this information. It might not look aesthetic if that is something that you're going for, but I do think it is important for a couple of reasons. First, maybe you want to do some more research on this topic later and you'll want to know where to go back to and where to find more information. But also, if you later find more resources or more sources, you might want to verify the validity of the source you used originally for the information and whether or not you still trust the information. And I always think it is important to look where information is coming from. Is it coming from a reputable source? Is it from a random Tumblr blogger? And I'm not saying that a random Tumblr blogger doesn't know what they're talking about, but you need to be sure about that. You need to verify the information that they give. Can you find it anywhere else? Because Tumblr is a great way to find information, but don't forget that you also need to verify that information to see if it is valid. Look at if you can find the same information elsewhere. I think that is just important to remember, to look if their information is indeed correct. And I also would like to talk about what you do in your craft in general, and sort of give a warning that you don't want to do anything that is culturally inappropriate. But I don't think I am the right person to talk about that, so I will leave some sources, some resources in the description box below about cultural appropriation, because I simply don't know enough. But I just want you to be sure that what you do in your practice is ethical. And then step 4, list what you want to include in your Book of Shadows. So here's some inspiration of what you might want to include in your Book of Shadows. The Wheel of the Year, including the Sabbaths and the rituals you want to do for them. Any deities you might want to worship, what they are known for, what you can offer them, and why you want to work with them. Astrology information, zodiac signs, planets, houses, information on the crystals that you own, what are their properties, how could you use them in your practice, new moon and full moon practices and rituals, a list of what you want to learn in your practice. So on my list, I have things like palmistry, protection spells, Reiki, Lenormand, chakras, auras, healing, as well as horoscopes through transits, magical timing correspondences, updates of the week, as well as hourly magic, any spells that you want to do, candle magic, tarot card meanings, properties of herbs, plants, flowers, trees, fruits, and the elements. Anything from your own ancestral, I cannot pronounce that, I'm so sorry, ancestral path, so like your cultural background, and any recipes for oils, salves, and any other witchy DIYs. Now it's time for the final step, step 5, just start. Now that you have an idea of what you want to do with your Book of Shadows, what you want to put in it, I recommend you just start. Once you have started, it is so much easier to just keep on going. And I do recommend you write a letter for yourself with what your intentions are for your Book of Shadows, because one, this is a way to set an intention for your Book of Shadows, but it's also fun to have something to read at the beginning of your practice, at the beginning of your Book of Shadows, and to read it back once you finish the notebook. So that is everything that I wanted to talk about for setting up your Book of Shadows. If you have any more tips, anything that I forgot, definitely let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to download the workbook. I'll definitely do like a show and tell of my Book of Shadows. I want to do a couple of those a year, maybe as a video for this channel, because I just like sharing my Book of Shadows. I like sharing parts of my practice and parts of my crafts, because that is literally the reason that I created this channel. So if you want to book a personal one-on-one tarot reading with me, you can do so through the links in the description box below, either through Etsy or my coffee shop. I do have new offers. I created those this weekend, so definitely check those out. If you want to see more videos on tarot, tarot chats, Book of Shadows, all that kind of stuff, subscribe to this channel. I would love to have you here. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.